live. And away we go. Yes, indeed. Picks and Roll live for you. All things NBA with Sean Barnard, who does a great job covering the NBA for us here on The Gambler. And, of course, you can find him over at DraftKings Sportsbook as well. I am Sean Brace. Sixers looked good over the weekend. Let that one go pretty fast. Oh, we did have Mike Tirico on the call, so that was pretty cool. But sure. We will discuss a little 76ers because I think now more than ever we need to start this. We need to start addressing what will be the next step for this team. Whether or not it'll be Daryl Morey, is that in their best interest? So there will be Sixers conversation coming your way. But it is all things NBA. We got a lot to get to. And Sean Barnard, some interesting games taking place last night, some injuries that nobody wants to see. And I know it came down the pipe that it was a torn ACL for Kyrie. So he will be officially done. I think that a lot of us were kind of hopeful that it was just going to be a bruised knee. Yeah, that wasn't good. So torn ACL, he is now done for the season. Dallas Mavericks are a capital D disaster after trading Luka. We're going to talk about the Lakers. We're going to talk about SGA. We're going to put the light on the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're also going to address some of the hottest teams since the All-Star break. A lot to get to. Sean Barnard, how we doing today, man?
Doing well. That was quite the intro there. So plenty to dive into, plenty to get excited about, hype to jump into it. I do believe March is the best sporting month in the entire calendar year. So excited to ring that in. The best event with March Madness, no doubt about it. Greatest sporting event on the planet. I know we're talking NBA to stick to that. So very hyped to get into each one.
Wait. They play NFL in the month of March? I didn't know that.
They have March Madness pulls its weight right there. We got the NBA heating up. We got NFL offseason.
Pulls its weight. Yeah, all right. Did you happen to see the numbers of how many people tuned in for it? It'd be interesting. I want to know. I want to look into how many people do watch March Madness.
Well, that's like an apples to oranges because there's so many games type thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you count that.
Well, they do some way, somehow. So we'll have to look up that Nielsen rating and see exactly what those numbers are. There's no doubt about it. Like, March is incredible. I'm right there with you. But the NFL is just a different monster, but we already know that. All right, look, we got a lot to get to. And before we dive into some of the big picture, conversations, let's address Kyrie, because that was very unfortunate. And with the news coming down, like immediately when that deal went down, there were a lot of people out there, Sean, that said, right now, the Dallas Mavericks are better off. Right now, competing for the championship this year, the Dallas Mavericks are better off. No, I thought that was a little over the top. Again, a lot of basketball to be played. You're making a change, a pretty drastic one in the middle of the season. Yeah. That takes some time. I know that these guys are really damn good at the end of the day. I just still wasn't buying it, but nobody saw this coming. Anthony Davis gets hurt. He's been relatively healthy for the last 2 seasons. So that was a tough break there. And now Kyrie's done for the season. You got people canceling season tickets. Nico, just fire him chants left and right. This could not have gone worse.
Yeah, no, I first and foremost, I just straight up feel bad for Mavericks fans, man. Like I don't think I've seen, and this going across all sports here, as catastrophic of a season. Just think about flashback 2 months ago, and we're talking about the Mavericks still as a Western Conference contender that almost had a chance of winning the NBA championship last year, and then to fall so quickly is pretty crazy there. But definitely prayers up for Kyrie Irving. That was one last night. The second I saw the way he went down, that kind of knew that was an ACL right away situation. Really tough, because I do still subscribe to the theory that this Mavericks team could be extremely good if fully healthy, but that's the risk you take when you're building around Anthony Davis. And frankly, for all the praise that I've given to Kyrie here, we've had a streak of good luck as far as no sort of situations popping up in his world. So very disappointing that obviously injuries are going to be what takes him off the floor here. It is going to be a mess of the season that is only going to get worse. And by the way, get ready for that 8% increase in season tickets next year from the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, ridiculous. Steven put that out there. I don't, who knows what's going on in Dallas, but I do feel, like you said, for Dallas Mavericks fans, from the standpoint of losing a guy like Luka out of nowhere, not getting the return that you should have gotten. And then, oh, by the way, Anthony Davis, as soon as you're able to be like, hey, he is pretty good, he goes down and has been out for since the trade essentially went down. He played in one game, correct? It was the first half of the first game.
Yeah, didn't even make it through that full game, and he was incredible in that
Yeah.
like 2.5 quarters that you got to see of him. That like you could see, and I thought it was a cool moment too. The Anthony Davis saying, "I'm here now," talking to the crowd, like it had the vibe of it. But then you got the Anthony Davis experience and accelerated right there. That he can get to those high highs, look that good, and then all of a sudden the injury pops right back up, and that's exactly what went down in Dallas in Game 1.
7 points for Kyrie. He left after playing just 9 minutes last night and did shoot the 2 free throws, a la Kobe Bryant out there with the torn ACL. Now that we know that was the case, and that was pretty cool. It made them both, man. Tears coming down his eyes. Man, I got goosebumps just talking about it right now. It's tough. I've always liked Kyrie. We went through that stretch where the nonsense and this world got turned upside down with the pandemic, and it was a tough pill to swallow. But ultimately, everybody had a choice to make for themselves. I respected it, and the other stuff doesn't really bother me. The world is flat, whatever. Who knows what people say and what they really believe. But when it comes to Kyrie Irving, the ball player, that kid has been front and center for me since he came out of Duke. The best handles in the game, a superstar, a true superstar. And, of course, has hit some big shots along the way. So, as you said, man, we're pulling for Kyrie. We are Team Kyrie here on Picks and Roll here. All right, let's keep it moving. I want to go ahead and hit the rewind button because I don't – look, it got played on Friday. So that kind of pushes it back with the weekend. And, of course, everything else taking place, especially these days, the news cycle. If it's not happening or if it happened 2 hours ago, people are already off of it. But Friday night, we had a pretty significant game played between the two top dogs in the East, between the Cavs and the Celtics. Now, the Cavs were dogs in this game. Game was being played in Boston. We're past the All-Star break. We are now into the area of like, hey, look, it's a long season. You're going to see some sluggish play. But ultimately, I looked at that game and I said, you're going to get the best effort here from both teams. And the Celtics, as I said, were favored at home, rightfully so. The money, as far as odds are concerned, with the Celtics, they're number one. And the Cavs have had the best record. I just was like scratching my head at that. But again, we understand why that takes place. So on Friday, the Cavs go down. Essentially, it was like 25-3. I don't even know what the number was, but it was 26-3, snap of the fingers. Everybody was ripping their Cavaliers tickets up. Unbelievable. And then all they do is
telling them to get out of here.
Yeah. Jason Tatum telling him to get out of here. Donovan or Mitchell looking over at him going, wait, all right. Well, we got a long way to go, as often when it comes to, of course, the NBA. Talk to me in the fourth quarter. Anyways, at the end of the first quarter, they did battle back, made it somewhat of a game. It was 38-26. And then all they did was win every single quarter from that point on, including in the fourth quarter where Cleveland outscored Boston 28-18. So with that being said, Sean Barnard, when we talk about that game on Friday, should we be making a little bit more of a bigger deal about that final score? And then when you take it over into the futures, right,
Mm-hmm.
from the standpoint of you look at the conference winner at Boston -115, the Cleveland Cavaliers at +210 just to win the East. Not really that much shakeup after that game. So when it comes down to that game being played on Friday, what did you learn, if anything?
I think the Cleveland Cavaliers should be the favorites in the Eastern Conference at this point. They just keep proving it. They just keep winning, and they're really not getting the respect because of it. They're 50-10 on the season. They're on another 10-game winning streak, and that performance was nothing to just brush off. That is a gritty, come-from-behind fight that team showed, and straight up down the stretch of that game, Donovan Mitchell was the best player on the floor, man. And if you want to be Jason Tatum, if you want to be Jaylen Brown, if you are these caliber of guys, that just can't happen. But I was really impressed with how unafraid Mitchell looked, the way that he was able to deliver and take full control of that game. And I really do believe that, like, if you were to line up this matchup for these two teams to play, 10 times right now, that the Cleveland Cavaliers are winning at least 6 of those. So I'm kind of surprised that there has not been more shakeup in the market. I do think the Cavaliers should be the favorites. And when kind of thinking about like the biggest flaws or the biggest holes in the Celtics team, I do think the hunger and the wear and tear on this body are probably the two things that I'm watching out for. Looking at this Cavs team, there is a bit of hunger that they have that I feel like the Celtics aren't matching this year. Darius Garland is incredible, man. He's taken his game to another level this year. They also showed the willingness to bench Jared Allen in clutch time of that game. And we know kind of the concerns with having the two bigs with Mobley and Allen. That's been sort of the pushback on the Cavaliers to an extent. They showed a willingness to do that this wasn't the matchup that Jared Allen is effective. We're going to shut him down and he won't be in the closing lineup. So I think the Cavaliers should be viewed as the favorites in the East at this point, and I do think the Celtics should be worried.
Woo! Yeah, I'm with you. That's where I'm looking at right now. And again, we are ways past the opportunity to get unbelievable value or anything preseason. That's understood. But when you look at the Cavs to win the East at plus 210,
yeah,
that's a significant number right there. And the Celtics at minus 115, I just feel like this could, and again, this is really easy to say this could go like two ways. One, where the Boston Celtics show up in playoff time and they are the best team and they have a whole nother gear. And then it could go the other way where, hey, look, man, we've been undervaluing the Cleveland Cavs all season long. That's going to continue until they knock them off in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that's a realistic possibility. They have some really good pieces on that roster. They started putting it together last year. This isn't a fluke in my mind.
No.
And you got a guy like Mitchell who is he's a beast out there. He is a beast. Create his own shot, hit the three, get to the rack with ease. It doesn't matter who's in the lane. Mitchell is insane. And that game on Friday night was awesome.
Yeah, no, it definitely was there. And they got like loaded talent, man. You look up and down that roster, like the two bigs that we talked about there, and even diving deeper, a guy like Ty Jerome has been terrific for this team. Garland and Mitchell, a terrific backcourt there that they are really going for, that they have guys to sort of answers at every single position that I'm looking for here. So I kind of think that we haven't given enough credit for the production that they have brought on this floor. You can't just luck your way into being 50-10. This team is good. They're talented. They're playing hard. I love the way it all clicks. And I think I'm going to lean on that take once again, that if this game were to be played 10 times in the playoffs, this series between them, the Cavaliers are winning at least 6 of those. So I'm kind of surprised at the market at this point. I do think that it should be closer to an even split. And if anything, the Cavaliers have earned the right to be a favorite. The only reason the Celtics get that is because they've done it before, but everyone has to do it for a first time at some point. I kind of think this could be the Cavs moment.
You know, what's interesting is that, like, I think as a whole, everybody is just downplaying the Cavs, right? And I bring it up because of, like I said, the number one record in the NBA. Like, you can't just go ahead and glance past that because, like, it's March, as you brought up. They're 50-10. 50-10. The Celtics are 43-18. I know the Oklahoma City Thunder are 50-11, so they're right there. But still, that is a great, great record, and one that I don't think a lot of people had. The Cleveland Cavaliers, even the most diehard Cavs fan out there, I don't think had them at this point in time being 50-11. Now, one thing I would say is that's glaring to me is that Donovan Mitchell isn't even in the top 5 for MVP. Where do you stand on that conversation? And again, I'm not saying he deserves to win it, but how is Donovan Mitchell not being discussed like Jason Tatum, like Giannis, like LeBron, like Joker? What am I missing there? Uh-oh. We're having some issues with the Wi-Fi here.
There we go. And we're back in now. But as far as the Donovan Mitchell MVP conversation here, it is surprising that like there hasn't been more buzz about this. Like we've seen a lot of in years past that gets talked about a lot. The best player on the best team, that's basically an MVP candidate. That there will be journalists and reporters that vote that direction there. But we haven't heard really any of that from Mitchell. I guess my biggest thing would be like when you dive into the stats here, statistically in some areas, like he's taken a step back this year. Now, granted, I think he's played more winning basketball, that he's embraced this team concept, and that's a large reason why the team is having their success. I think Garland's a guy that you're seeing the more linear growth in his game, which sort of distracts from it. Evan Mobley, another guy I would throw in that category where you can directly see the strides forward that he's taken from last year to now, which I don't think you can really correlate with Mitchell, but I'm in agreement with you. I do think that he deserves a little more love than he's getting. I think at this point it should be viewed as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's award to lose, although there is beginning to be a little bit of that Nikola Jokic swing back, which tends to happen at this stage of the season here. I still think SGA is going to be the guy, but I do think Donovan Mitchell should be in that same mix.
Seriously? You think that SG he just scored 50 again last night in his fourth time in whatever amount of games it is. Like he's on a different level. Where is this Joker stuff coming from?
I mean, Denver keeps playing well too. They've climbed. They're right in that same mix for the West. They're now in third place, 39-22, so a half game or tied with the Lakers for the second seed. Really, they're just hits a stage in the season where I feel the Jokic media force is working strongly, pointing to the advanced numbers, looking at all these. Nobody else is doing this. I feel those inner workings starting to develop a little bit in the NBA media world. I'll say that.
All right, I like that. Yeah, look, we're going to talk about the Denver Nuggets because Kendrick Perkins this morning said on Get Up that they are not a contender. We'll discuss them in just a second. All right, moving off of the Cavs, I'm right there with you. So just a plus on this one more time for the people that might be just joining us right now. Plus 210, the Cavs to win the East. Is that a good bet in your mind?
I think that's a great bet at this point. The number's not going to get lower. I think it's mispriced as it currently is, that the Cavaliers have played their way into being the rightful favorites in the Eastern Conference. They're not getting that kind of love in the market right now. So I say jump on it now before that number changes.
7-game series played tomorrow, 4 in Boston, 3 in Cleveland. Who you got?
And for what it's worth here, we'll end up 4 in Cleveland for this series because of the way that things shake out. But either way here.
But that's not my question. My question is, Boston has the home floor. Where are you going?
I think this is a 7-game series between these two teams. I really do. If it is in Boston with like the knowing what this team has done in the past, I certainly can see the Celtics walking away with that. But that's kind of why I think it's important that the Cavaliers have taken this foot on the gas to get home court advantage with this. I think it is a toss-up, but like the fact that I think it's that close is sort of indicative of why I think there's value in the numbers here. That I think this should be sort of a split between these two teams, not the Celtics looked at as clear-cut favorites. So I probably still lean Celtics for your specific question there, but I do think it is one that could go either way, and that's why I lean into the Cavs from a value perspective.
I like that because that's just where I wanted to know. Yeah, it's that close. We understand how good the Boston Celtics really are. But this is going to be, if it is played, if they do meet up in the playoffs, it's most likely going to be played in Cleveland, which is a huge, huge deal, to say the least. All right, let's continue talking about contenders here on March the 4th. Let's talk about the red-hot Los Angeles Lakers, Sean Barnard. 6-2 with Luka, and they are looking dangerous. Come on, man. I got a little something left for the snippet as far as the tweet going out there, the name of this episode. But they are looking dangerous. They have won 12 of their last 14, 6 straight, second most over that span in the NBA as far as a team is concerned for the most wins. And LeBron and Luka, it shouldn't come as a surprise that they are obviously playing well together. We're talking about, we don't even need to go into it. We already know. It's understood. If it's not understood, you've been living underneath the rock for the last 2 decades. But Luka and LeBron are 2 amazing ball players, and they figured it out pretty quickly. Hey, man, I'm not surprised by it. I don't think you are. But what is the difference as far as what they're getting production-wise from the other players? Because, look, Luka and LeBron aren't out there scoring 50 apiece. They're getting everybody else involved. And I thought that this is where they were going to take a little bit of a hit because they didn't have the size down low. So, of course, they're going to get exploited on defense, and especially with Luka out there defending. He's a little bit of a liability, but it seems like they've been figuring that out. Also, the fact that they ended up giving up another piece in this deal to the Dallas Mavericks, which was a pretty decent piece there. So I thought as a whole, the Lakers were going to take a hit from the other players. It doesn't look like that at this point in time. Is this something that you think will continue to carry? Why have the other players figured it out pretty quickly, just like LeBron and Luka have in your mind?
Yeah, it's certainly happening quicker than I could have expected with that. Like I did obviously believe these guys would figure it out. It feels like things are clicking right away. And as far as the biggest surprise as a whole, defensively, this team is miles better than I think anyone could have expected. That was the biggest concern. Like, can they build up? They've been second in defensive rating since the Luka Doncic trade. That is ridiculous stuff. Now, a large portion of that I would directly point to is just LeBron James, like, honestly trying harder defensively and competing on that end of the floor in a way that I don't think he fully did for the larger part of the first half of the season. But the other guys are bought in too, that we're seeing these different lineups that JJ Redick is staggering. He's been kind of really pushing this emphasis of like kind of almost putting Austin Reeves in the same conversation with Luka and LeBron James, that when those three are on the floor together, you're not going to be able to throw like a premier perimeter defender on all three of those guys. Somebody's going to get a positive matchup, and those are things that we want to exploit. And also do want to give a little bit more love to JJ Redick here. This team looks prepared every single night, man. This team has a clear game plan. I know that Nuggets game is the one that has like the headlines for the way they had a clear plan of attack for shutting down Nikola Jokic. And by the way, that's like a really noteworthy one when thinking about this potential path through the playoffs and how things could shape up, that very well could be a hurdle they need to clear. But Redick has this team absolutely locked in, dialed in with the defensive game plan, and just delivering on both sides of the ball. So LeBron James and Luka Doncic, two of the highest IQ basketball players probably ever, to have them on the floor together and the other guys figuring things out. It's smooth sailing out there in Los Angeles right now.
Starting next week, the Lakers will have 6 games in 8 days, including a pair with the Nuggets and Bucks and one against the Phoenix Suns. Then in the final 5 games, there are 2 with OKC, 1 with the Rockets, and then the Doncic heading to Dallas for that game. So that's a much anticipated game that everybody's ready to focus in on. But bottom line is this Lakers team looks for real. What's the ceiling, Sean Barnard? Where are you willing to go with the LA Lakers at this point in time on March 4th?
I think that there's a chance that they could win the West. I really do. And I think I'll put it this way. The take that I've really kind of been, I guess, ironing up here. I think one of the Lakers or the Golden State Warriors will be in the Western Conference Finals. That I think it would be one of those kind of old school teams that are still kicking around against the Oklahoma City Thunder is my prediction there. Now, granted, just purely lining them up from basketball, the Thunder are still a far better team than this Lakers team specifically, but there's always that threat of when you have Luka Doncic and LeBron James on the same floor, that you have a chance, and they absolutely do in that series. I need to see a little more before I'm all the way bought back in, or all the way believing that this could be the case, but I do think the Lakers have a real deal chance of winning the Western Conference.
All right. Well, we're talking about contenders here. I'm with you on that one. I think the Lakers, and it's one of those bets right now where, look, you're going to get that shoved down your throat, which is fine because they're playing well. It's the Lakers. We understand how that works. And they added Luka, one of the best players of all time in his short span of his career so far. And they're just continuing to win, and they're putting it together. Again, DraftKings Sportsbook, where we're getting the odds from. The Lakers now down to plus 650. That continues to come down. I think last week when we were discussing this, it was around 750. So plus 650, still holding steady around that mark. Nuggets 6-1, and the Oklahoma City Thunder at minus 125 to win the West. Yeah, that is a big difference there as far as OKC is concerned. Again, that is just to win the West. So that's probably the slice of pie that I would be more willing to bet. Again, to win it all, man, that would just be an insane run for the Lakers if they were able to do that. 15-1 at this point in time. I think last week they were at 17-1. So Cavs are plus 600 to win the title. Celtics plus 220. OKC plus 175. And then, as I said, a jump up to the Lakers at 15-1, Nuggets 16-1, Warriors 16-1. And then we'll stop there because we don't need to talk about the New York Knicks in that conversation to win it all. All right. Yeah, for the Lakers, I'm right there. I just think that that's a good bet to have, a fun wager to have. And, for the people that are anti-LeBron, that's fine. Knock yourself out. But if you're not, then I think that there's value there. And having that ticket in your pocket, as you said, they very well could play themselves into a Western Conference Finals. And if that's the case, watch out. It's going to be tough stopping both of those players in a 7-game series. I think they're going to be able to do enough. I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, man, but I have been super impressed with the Lakers, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to tune in. And for my money, even when Anthony Davis is playing his best, like I look at this and I just think there's another level to this Lakers team versus when AD was on it. Am I wrong on that one?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that's the design of this trade, to be honest. Like we're seeing LeBron James rejuvenated in a way that I think it's been years since we've really seen this. The way he's flying around the court, the way he's defending, just the energy that he's bringing on the court out there. Feels like LeBron has gained like a purpose to an extent. And to be perfectly honest, that's what I thought, like the whole purpose of him going to this Lakers team and bringing in Anthony Davis. That was sort of the shift that was supposed to happen, is LeBron James would pass the baton to Anthony Davis and he could continue on as the face of the franchise. To just call it what it is, that wasn't quite the guy that Anthony Davis is as a basketball player. Terrific player, no doubt about it. One of the best in the league, but he's not Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic is now prepared to be this next face of the potential NBA, not just face of the Lakers. And it's LeBron James that's directly like show him the ropes in that category here. So I love like the rejuvenation from LeBron James. Luka Doncic is a guy who I think is going to be totally capable of carrying that baton in the way that it's designed. And it's going to be really cool to watch this play out, not just this season, but over the next couple of years.
All right, talking about contenders right here with Sean Barnard, picks and roll coming to you live. Let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. Oh, no, excuse me. We'll get to the East in just a second. Let's stay with the West. I apologize. Denver Nuggets. Back over to the Nuggets here. And they have now lost against the Lakers on February 22nd. They lost to the Milwaukee Bucks on February 27th. And they just lost on Monday. No, today's Tuesday. On Sunday versus the Boston Celtics in Boston, 110-103, where they were 5-point dogs in that one. So I have to ask you, as I said, Kendrick Perkins said today that he feels that they are not a contender. And now there are people out there floating out this idea that JJ Redick has found the remedy to defeat the Detroit or the Denver Nuggets, and it's spacing and it's double teaming Joker and forcing the Denver Nuggets to shoot threes. And I that's all well and good. That's easier said than done. Everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, right? But is there something there in your mind that's making you a little reluctant to wager on the Denver Nuggets, to push the Denver Nuggets as a championship contender? Or do you think that's blasphemy? Leave me alone with that. The Nuggets are damn good. They won a championship. They have that championship mentality. Oh, by the way, Joker is still one of the best in the game. Maybe they're not as good when they won the NBA championship, but this is still a championship contender. Where do you stand on that one?
Yeah, I think that's all mostly fair. I certainly feel better about the Denver Nuggets right now than I did about them earlier on in the season. I think we've seen Jamal Murray look like Jamal Murray again. Aaron Gordon's been in and out due to injuries, but he's shot the ball really well this year, seeing some growth in guys like Christian Braun, who's been straight up excellent for this Denver team of late here. So Nikola Jokic, still one of the best players on the planet. As much as I personally have praised JJ Redick and this game plan that was created, I don't think that's something that is the cure-all for shutting this guy down. And frankly, I think if you give that look to him a little too often there, he will find ways to beat it. So I don't think that they are solved in the way it's being presented. I wouldn't put Denver in that same tier of like, if I was to label the clear-cut championship contenders, to me that there's like a top three of it is the Boston Celtics, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers, and it's the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think that is the very clear top three teams with a chance to win a championship, but I probably put Denver in fourth right below that with that next spot there. So I think they're probably not in that top upper echelon of contenders, but they're still right in that mix, and I definitely am not counting them out from winning a championship this year.
Where's that coming from? What are, why are people, again, it's a long season, we know that, but is there something real with that conversational piece about, hey, look, if you want to stop the Denver Nuggets, this is what you need to do? Again, not every team has the personnel to make those plays, make those adjustments, of course, defensively against Joker, but where are we at with that conversation? Does it come, because it hit me out of nowhere?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything overly like creative, to be honest. Like the Sixers did this to an effect when they guarded Jokic, which basically the tactic is that you want to put a guy like basically face guarding him, and it's better to have a little bit smaller and more physical defender. Like PJ Tucker was the guy for the Sixers. The Lakers kind of rotated a bunch of guys that played this role. Vanderbilt certainly did his thing. There was a lot of guys that sort of rotated in, but you pick them up 94 feet, you have a guy doubling, and then you have a guy face guarding and constantly guy sort of shadowing there. So when you think about Nikola Jokic, what he's most dangerous at, he can do everything on a basketball court. There's no doubt about it. But when he's picking you apart as a playmaker, that's when they're at their most dangerous as an offense. So what that's really preventing is the opportunities for him to have looks and really be the guy that is delivering those passes. For somebody else to beat you is more of the tactic. It's almost like cutting him out of the offense. And he still finished with a triple-double in that game, by the way. So it's not like you completely shut him down and let him do nothing. But that's sort of the tactic there, is to limit his opportunities as a passer. It's definitely effective if you can make it happen. But I mean, they're 7-3 in their past 10. Jamal Murray has played far better basketball of late. I'm not worried about this Nuggets team. So I don't feel the sense of panic that some people are sort of projecting it as.
Yeah, there's an article right now on CBSSports.com. Nuggets played by poor spacing and lost to Celtics, and it's an issue that will define Denver's season. Denver championship's hopes rest on an iffy three-point shooting.
Yeah, I mean, they're not as good as they were the championship year. I'll say that for sure. But I kind of think the rest of the NBA isn't either, to an extent, that there are vulnerabilities in a lot of these teams. You are missing the, Kentavious Caldwell Popes, the Bruce Browns, the guys that were there and earned quite a paycheck for the role that they played on their team. But I am a believer in guys like Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, that can step up and play their role there. So I honestly am not as worried. I'm surprised by this kind of growth and concern with the Nuggets here. I still think they're a very good basketball team, should be mentioned as a team that has a chance to win. And I think that's ultimately how things will play out. So people can press the panic button now. I'm going to relax on this one for the time being.
All right. Once again, DraftKings Sportsbook, where we're getting our numbers from. You can get the Denver Nuggets, as I said, to win the West at 6-1 to win it all as far as the championship. Get that parade up there in Denver, and second title for the Nuggets and Joker and company. At this point in time, you get the Nuggets at 16-1. All right, now let's get on over to the East and let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'm bringing up the Bucks for two reasons. Number one, they're 5-1 since the All-Star break, one of the top 5-6 teams in the game over that span. And oh, by the way, they already have a banner, Sean Barnard. Yeah, they won the in-season tournament. This is a team that didn't smoke the cigars. This is a team that skipped the champagne and said, we ain't satisfied with winning the in-season tournament. We want the big one. So, of course, they have the mental makeup. They have the players in Giannis and Dame. They're putting it together. Doc is the coach, so I'm looking at it a little bit as far as side eye is concerned. But we're talking about Milwaukee Bucks team right now, beating the Wolves, Mavs on the road, Nuggets, Clippers, and Heat. Giannis, as I said, pretty damn good. But where are the Nuggets in your mind? And of course, what they're able to do as far as the trade deadline was concerned, getting Kuzma. Where are we at right now with the Milwaukee Bucks as far as the East is concerned in your mind, Sean Barnard?
Yeah, I think they're in sort of a similar spot to the Denver Nuggets, that I would not throw them in that same category of the Celtics or Cavaliers. There's probably a little bit larger gap between those two teams and the rest of the conference in the East than is the case in the West there. But I would throw them right in that next mix. If you told me a team in the Eastern Conference is going to win the NBA championship that isn't the Celtics or Cavaliers, I do think it will be the Milwaukee Bucks there. I can't rule out Giannis, who still can just take over a game on any given night, be the most physically commanding and talented player on the floor, and he's done that for stretches this season. I think it's been a pretty nice resurgence from Damian Lillard. Certainly not the prime version that we saw out there in Portland, but still a guy that can get the job done and can get red hot from beyond the arc. I've been encouraged by what I've seen from Brook Lopez as the season has progressed. It feels like he almost has loosened up a little bit, that he's, again, a guy that's clearly in the advanced age of his career, but he is showing a little bit more mobility on that side of the floor. Kyle Kuzma, I think, has been excellent for this team, providing a little bit of a spark. He picked up an ankle sprain, so a little disappointing there, but not something that's going to keep him out long term. He's unlikely to play this week, it looks like, but could be back as soon as next, so nothing that's a massive concern there. I think that's a nice sort of X factor piece that they can have, a guy that can create some offense. As much as Chris Middleton was excellent during his time with that franchise, I do think that there was some new energy that needed to be injected, and I think they did that. So I think the Bucks are a good team. I do tip the cap and respect Giannis and give them a chance just based on that. They haven't been perfect. They've had their ups and downs this year, but a team that I have my eye on and I'm not counting out completely.
7-game series versus the Cleveland Cavaliers starts tomorrow. 4 in Milwaukee, 3 in Cleveland. Where are you at?
4-2 Cleveland. I would still say that.
Okay. 7-game series against the Boston Celtics starts tomorrow. 4 in Milwaukee, 3 in Boston.
4 in Milwaukee, 3 in Boston. I probably still think it's 4-2 Celtics. I do think the Celtics and Cavs are a tier above the Bucks.
All right. Great stuff. Again, we're talking all things contenders at this point in time. Picks and roll. Still a little ways to go until we get into the month of April, where we heat things up as far as playoffs are concerned. That brutal final week of the season. Ugh, I hate the last week. Yeah, as good as March is, that last week of the NBA regular season is brutal. But that's all right. We still got some ways to go, and some of these teams are starting to separate themselves. And again, DraftKings Sportsbook, where we're getting our numbers from for the Milwaukee Bucks, they are 15-1 to represent the Eastern Conference.
Wow.
And to win it all at this point in time, the Milwaukee Bucks are 45-1.
Wow. It's a bigger number than I would have guessed.
Nothing there for you? 45-1. Nothing there for you at 16-1 to win the East.
Yeah, that's better value than I would have predicted. Blindly guessing the odds there, I probably would have guessed them like I don't even know like closer to the Lakers range to be perfectly honest. Like the plus
Yeah.
650, plus 700 would have been my guess there. But interesting. So yeah, if you're a Bucks believer, the Doc Rivers like hatred in me and unbelief that he will get the job done the biggest stage holds me back from being all in on it. And I mean, like there are still some concerns on this team. I don't love their perimeter defense still. I think they're a little bit of a team that you don't know what you're getting on an every night basis. So I have more concerns about this Bucks team than going all in and saying this is the value compared to teams like the Cavs or the Nuggets there. So I'll keep off it a full take and all in there, but I don't hate it if that's the direction you want to go.
All right, Sean Barnard, before we get into tonight's card, and there's a lot of action to get to, we're not going to go over every game, but we have to squeeze in some 76ers conversation and see if we can go ahead and start predicting the future right now as we are live. Of course, the news that comes down over the weekend with Joel Embiid being shut down for the season, nobody wants to see it, but at the end of the day, it's the best news possible. It should have happened a long time ago. Played in 19 games this year, just a disaster across the board. It's not even at this point in time, we're up in the air with how they're going to approach getting Joel Embiid healthy next year. I don't even want to go into that discussion right now, if you don't mind, because I think we're all in agreement that it doesn't look good for the big man. And where we're at right now, like next year, I don't know if you can go into a season. And again, there's so many things that need to be answered. Like Joel Embiid is the guy. Like we depend on Joel Embiid. Our season depends on Joel Embiid. So we don't know what's next for him, right? We're talking about breaking bones to heal. We're talking about new ways to get things right for him, which is never. We're in Andrew Bynum territory officially in my mind. But putting that to
let's not go that far. We won't go that far yet.
And Bynum is the first time that they started making up ways to heal him. And that was like, they're going to go over across seas in Germany and they're going to start mixing chromosomes. Look it up. Look it up. That was the first time. And now you're telling me a surgery where we're going to be breaking a bone, possibly two bones. For
that, I don't think there's any credence to that. And I will note that was the Inquirer that reported that. Also happened to be the same reporter that Joel may or may not have been suspended for shoving earlier this year. From everything that I've heard, and I'm actually very excited. I got an interview with a doctor later today to talk a little bit more in depth about the actual options that Joel could have in front of him. But that does not seem to be anything that would make sense or is on the table. Brian Stutterer, I believe is the YouTube guy's name, who does a really nice job breaking this stuff down, was pretty confused reading that report there. So I don't think that they're going to be in breaking legs territory, but nonetheless, not the most positive outlook as a whole here.
And where I stand is if we have to break legs, just retire. Just give it up. I don't even want to see the big man go through that stuff. But all right. Let's just pretend that the news is not good for Joel Embiid. And next year he's to miss a significant portion of the season. And oh, by the way, you just can't bank on him. What is the approach for this franchise immediately when this season goes final? Where are we at? Because is it as simple as firing Daryl Morey, getting new vision in here? Is it as simple keeping Daryl Morey in here? Is there any changes that this team can make? I believe that there are. Again, each season in the NBA, especially, it surprises me some of these deals that teams get out of, make moves. So we'll put, we got to believe in that one. So having some fun with that discussion here. And the Sixers can make some moves for you in this offseason. What is your first approach? What's your first step? Where are we at right now if the offseason started today?
Yeah, whenever a season goes off the rails to a level that this one has for the Sixers, that somebody has to catch the responsibility or the blame for that. That there's never a bad luck, let's try again. Somebody has to catch the heat. I personally viewed most of the season that Nick Nurse was going to be the guy, that was my expectation, that you throw a little Band-Aid fix, bring in a new coach. And don't get me wrong, look at the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. You've seen teams that have had massive success from year to year where you bring in a new coach, a new vision, and the outlook's completely different. The report leading up to before Saturday's game of Joel Embiid having to go directly to Josh Harris before he was shut down for his knee surgery, that is pretty damning from the standpoint of Daryl Morey in my mind, because what that says here, and I understand he gets quite a bit of heat from this in the city of Philadelphia, and I get completely why, as Josh Harris owns the Washington Commanders, owns the New Jersey Devils, as well as the Philadelphia 76ers. What he is as an owner is a hands-off owner, that he views it as, I'm going to pay the right guys to do their job and take full control of the situation. with Daryl Morey being clearly one of these guys that represents the Sixers there and makes a bunch of big decisions for the franchise. When you have to go above that guy's head and talk directly to Josh Harris, it does feel to me that something is not quite aligned, I would say, within the organization with that. So that was Saturday when that report surfaced was the first time that I had some real doubts that Daryl Morey might not be back next year. Who knows what decision they make? And frankly, I think how this season ends really is going to impact things. If this isn't free fall, that they're in the lottery odds, and I think that's the better direction for the franchise, to be perfectly honest, that probably results in these kind of conversations we're talking about now. If this team does show a spark that is able to get into the play-in, while like in the long run, this is probably worse for the Sixers, I do think in the short term that does save people jobs. And I think like when we get into this tanking conversation, organizations certainly tank, but players and coaches cannot. That those are guys that have to buckle it up, have to try, have to give everything they have on the floor and give a chance to win because their future is at stake as well. So there are a lot of moving parts to this. I do think ultimately that it is trending towards Daryl Morey being fired, and pretty surprised that we are in this spot based on, again, I have a hard time being that critical of him because I supported a lot of what he did leading up to this year. And like, I get somebody has to catch the blame, but it's not Daryl's fault that Joel's knee falling apart. It's not Daryl's fault, some of the injury luck. And I guess to an extent you can push back and say it is because that's these guys' history. But I don't know. I do feel like it is trending that way, and I'm surprised to feel that way.
Yeah, there was a report from Stephen A., and he is somewhat connected in the world of the NBA. There's no denying that, and especially with his boy Magic Johnson, and that's where it came from.
Yep.
He put it right out there on television. I was just laughing about that. Josh Harris, of course, partners as far as the Commanders are concerned. So he did say that from what he hears, that Daryl Morey was the one pushing for the contract extension, and this wasn't anybody else at that point in time that said that Joel Embiid deserved the contract. Now, who knows what's true and what's not? That's Stephen A. That's his take. Regardless, like you said, this season has been just one of the worst seasons in 76ers franchise history, 21-39, putting the record to the side because I'm sure they had plenty of worse seasons than that, but just a little bit of expectation. Season was over as soon as it started, and to be honest with you, has not been enjoyable at all, except for Saturday night when they actually did play worth the damn because they were on national television, and they played all right. Yeah, Quentin Grimes, exactly, played very well. All right, so as far as the opportunity to make some moves, make some changes with a new general manager, that's probably not going to happen, right? Like, I would feel better if Daryl Morey was in and for the upcoming season, because I think like, okay, hey, he's still here. He knows he needs to make moves right here, right now, versus a new general manager coming in going, all right, I got to see what's here and what's what. Like you're just going to take a little bit more time. He's going to know that things need to be changed, but I just don't know if that's the right move, right direction. Again, just spitballing. Where do you stand on that one as far as what's the first move, and do you think it will be a little easier for a new general manager or Daryl Morey?
Yeah, I mean, I do sit in the camp of like, while I'm reading the tea leaves here, I don't think Daryl Morey should be fired, and I would prefer him to be back with the franchise. He hasn't been perfect, but I do think when you just gauge out the finality of all the moves that have been made, he has been a net positive for this organization. So I do think you got to, for the same things that you want to take points off at the top of this roster, you got to give him credit for drafting Jared McCain, for adding guys like Gershon Yabusele, bringing Lonnie Walker over. There's things that are good that he's done to this, trading for Quentin Grimes, all these type of things. As far as the moving forward from here, the Joel Embiid injury factor is going to be that X factor in that conversation that we don't know what exactly those conversations are. But what I think people are kind of underselling here, Jared McCain comes back next year, and that should be the full focus of like, who is Jared McCain as a basketball player? Is a Jared McCain and Tyrese Maxey backcourt something that is sustainable? Is that something that could be the future of the Sixers franchise? So the biggest question that I expect to be addressed and really investigated on the court for what these guys can really do is, what is the ceiling for a guy like Jared McCain? And I don't think it's that far of a leap to say that he could potentially be a borderline star in the NBA. So that's the guy that I really have my eye on, and what I think the biggest, I guess, evaluation period should be next year.
All right. I don't think anybody's going to be picturing championships in a parade down Broad Street next year, regardless. But there's just no way that we can deal with another season like that, like this. And like I said, from a 76ers fan perspective, it pained me to tune in. It pained me to watch. And that's just like, we can't have that. We cannot have that. We're too proud of a franchise to be just like, man, really? Like, I feel like, like we're an expansion team. It's how ugly it is right now. Oh, but good news is Paul George is not podcast anymore, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, got to take it. Got pursuit of the championship. You didn't hear the man?
Is he trolling us with that? Was he trolling?
I can't honestly. I've yet to get a full read on Paul George. My gut feeling is this is what tells me is he's trying really hard to like do the Philadelphia stuff and he just doesn't quite get it. That's kind of my feeling on things, that I do think that there's effort from him to try and fit in, to try and, have the optics of what Philly fans want. And it just doesn't fully connect with him for what it is. This is a different atmosphere and a different culture than he's been a part of at any other time in his life. He is a West Coast kid, went to Fresno State, played with the Clippers, played for the Thunder. The Indiana Pacers has probably been like the most diehard fan base that he's played in front of to this point. So it's a different experience than he's getting. I think he's trying to do like the fit in, and it just isn't quite connecting it the way that we're all hoping here, is sort of my read on things.
He back next year?
I think so. It would be very funny if he requested a trade this summer. I'll say that. That would be very funny. And I don't think that there's a 0% chance of that. I do think it's more likely than not that, like, as much as fans are going to hate to hear this, that it is going to be a little bit of run it back and see what happens. Now, with that said here, we're already hearing the Kevin Durant trade rumors and all this. So Paul George's contract and him as a basketball player could certainly come into play this summer. I'm not taking that off the table. But if you were to pin me down and say more likely or not, I would set it probably like 80% chance Paul George is a Sixer next year.
It is intriguing, man. You start talking about these guys and the final couple of years that they have left in the league, and I know that players are playing a little bit longer in life, stretching out their careers. But if I'm Paul George, I'm saying, I don't see this team competing next year, and maybe it's in my best interest to get out of here, right now. It's easier said than done, but
like to that point, though, you know what my comment to Paul George on that outlook would be? Look in the mirror, man, because you were brought here to be a part of this team. You were brought here to be a part of the turnaround. And I understand, like, he can't control Joel Embiid's injury stuff, and like that's the root of why the season has been gone off the rails. You were supposed to be a part of that solution, that the Sixers team can survive the nights where Joel does not play, that you can be the co-star to Tyrese Maxey. He hasn't even been that. So I could certainly see his mind getting there. I do think that would be a pretty extreme lack of accountability for his role and everything there.
Kind of fits in though, right?
Sure,
like
sure
this
does.
The guy that said at the middle of February when the road has just been dismantled. It literally, there's nowhere else to go. The road has come to an end. He's like, you know what? Now I'm going to stop podcasting because it's time to lock in, and said it with a straight face. Like, that's why I don't believe that he's serious. I think in this day and age when everybody's a troll and we continue to reward these trolls, shout out to Casey Anthony, who just pop back on the timeline. How about that? Yeah, how about that? Casey Anthony. We're going to make her famous now. Just complete garbage. Anyways, we're rewarding trolls left and right these days. And I just was like, he's trolling us, right? He has to be trolling us, but whatever. Anyways, all right, 76ers conversation over and done. Quickly on this, we'll close up shop. Big NBA card tonight. Sean Barnard, first of all, the viewing pleasure. Talk to me as a fan. What's the one game that we should be paying attention to the most tonight?
Personally, here it will be the Toronto Raptors versus Orlando Magic. That I'm rooting on the Toronto Raptors night in and night out, every night, looking for these lottery odds here. And I do think tonight is one that they have a chance to win. This Magic team has been brutal of late. They're in the bottom 3 in net rating, defensive rating, offensive rating. They're the worst 3-point shooting team in the league. Really have took a cliff dive this second half of the season. They're 7.5-point favorites over the Raptors. I do think the Raptors cover that, and I think they have a pretty good chance of winning outright there. So that is the game that I personally will have my eye on. As far as their general NBA fan, the Clippers Suns would be a fun one. I'm probably gonna still point to I'll go the Warriors Knicks is probably the top game to watch from a neutral viewing perspective. That this Warriors team is a blast to watch once again. The Knicks still have some questions that they're answering, but they will buckle up in battle. So that'll probably be the best game on the slate tonight.
All right, one play that you have from a DraftKings this evening. Where are you looking?
Yeah, it'd be Raptors plus 7.5 here. That I do think the Magic struggles are real. This Toronto team has been playing better basketball, that they're young, they're hungry, they compete every single night. I think this stays at least a game, and I do think that they are live dogs on the plus 240 on the money line. So rooting on the Raptors tonight, both morally and with the DraftKings account there.
Nice. I'm looking at the Bucks, 7-point favorites on the road against Atlanta. Atlanta with a tough win last night at the buzzer. Now back home, quick turnaround. That's a big, juicy number there. 7. I think that's for a reason. So give me the Bucks at 7:40 p.m. minus the 7 on the road. We didn't even get an opportunity to crap on the Knicks. We'll save that for next time. And of course, plenty to discuss in the world of the NBA. Sean Barnard, all things NBA for us here on The Gambler, does a great job. Be sure to follow him if you don't already on all things socials and catch all of his content over at dknetwork.com. Sean Barnard, thank you very much. Hey, and if you missed anything, please check us out at foxphlgambler.com.